Hiyo, name's Geela, but I also respond to Jella. Welcome back. As some of you may know, I play D&D, also known as Dungeons and Dragons, but don't worry, if you don't know anything about D&D, I'll explain some of the mechanics along the way. I just wanted to tell a story of the current campaign that I've been playing since the 2-year anniversary just passed in November 23rd, 2019. I'm here just to relay my memories. My friends also reminded me of stuff with speed paints and characters on screen. Also, I got a new mic, so hopefully it sounds aight. Okay, quick background information. D&D is a tabletop role-playing game, usually fantasy in setting. Here, players create a character with their DM/GM, which is their dungeon/game master, to make their characters fit the world's environment and be able to have character moments within that environment. As a DM myself, I create the world by narrating the scenes and the fights, acting as the NPCs as well as enemies to create a fun story for my friends, the players, to interact with. D&D does have official books and worlds, but I created my own homebrew, meaning I created the setting and the basic plot for my players to play with. I was also a noob DM, so some of the rules were misinterpreted until I got better. Then I purposely made misinterpretations, aka homebrewed some of the rules around, usually with the consent of my friends. It's funny because I had only known D&D for a few months before I decided to actually be a DM, having only played as a player for one day. But while taking university Spanish for heritage speakers, we had to write up a Latin American folklore of our choice. This led me down a rabbit hole that inspired me to create a fantasy, slightly horror and mystery campaign that had these folklore creatures as friends and foes. Of course, there are creative liberties and changes in the folklore tales to better fit my plot and world building and D&D in general, so please keep that disclaimer in mind. Anyway, I gathered a group of my friends from a previous university. I ended up transferring after a bit, and they were excited to play. Almost all of them were noobs at D&D and hadn't dived in headfirst like I did. So when I drove a few hours to play our first game together, I individually helped everybody to make their own character sheets, except for the veteran D&D player friend, because he knew what he was doing. Then that evening, we started the game with food and beverages already. So the story begins in the woods. Fog making the scenery difficult to see, and the canopy of the trees made it hard to pinpoint the time of day. A rustling of leaves could be heard as well as the sound of animal life and water along the creeks. We move to a small clearing where the fog isn't as imposing, and here our characters stumble in. From the north, two soaked and ragged individuals walked out, a dark-skinned human with unruly large hair and various instruments like a baritone and saxophone, strong enough to hold such items despite his lanky height. His partner was a blue dragonborn, walking with strength, equipped with chainmail, shield, and a large war hammer with a unique symbol on his person. Both seem exhausted. From the east, a light-skinned gnome entered, dressed in a dark robe that covered their features, with a few daggers that could be seen on the straps of his legs. From the west, a sky-blue-skinned lady appeared, white short hair flowing as if the wind continuously brushed it. Still, she wore heavy armor with a faded symbol, and a mace, flail, and shield were on her person. Both seemed annoyed. Lastly, from the south, our last starting player comes out, a sandy-shaded kobold with a horn broken upon his scalp. Different from the others, his outfit seemed closer to rags. However, he seemed unbothered, focused more on looking around in confidence. Upon seeing these strangers, the dragonborn sighed with relief, asking if they could help him and his companion as they were new to the area and had just experienced a boat crash, introducing himself as Elseed. The human behind him stated himself as Xerxes. Jumping onto the opportunity, the kobold lifted his hand, palm up. "This is Fish's forest, so you're going to have to pay Fish for being here." Everyone was a bit skeptical, but the hooded gnome was the loudest against it, completely untrusting. "I am not giving you money, and I doubt you own this forest." And thus, a heated argument ensued. Well, it was this gnome arguing at Fish, while Fish was completely unfazed and continued to stake claim on the forest, demanding payment. Here, Xerxes intervened. Hey, there's no need to argue, with Elsie having his back. He succeeded. The two stopped their hostility towards each other. In favor of yelling at Xerxes and Elseed for butting into the conversation, with a comment on, "You tall folk thinking you can look down on us," the two small races had a moment of small solidarity. Can you believe these guys? I know, bud, tall people are so rude. Oh, call me hawkish. Xerxes, however, was a bit offended, but Elsie tried to not escalate things. Noticing the fifth, who had not made a comment outside of not wanting to pay, Elsie asked who she was. St. Fiji Paradise, before stating that she was also lost from the fog. Then a voice and mischievous laughter could be heard. Instantly, the party looked around, seeing a figure moving through the fog, almost mystical in nature. This forest is truly good at keeping people around. Having elfish features, but just not quite, with piercing blue eyes and long wavy black hair that seemed to be unkept under her linen headband. Elsie spoke, asking who this lady was, as Horkish asked if this forest even belonged to the kobold, while, of course, Fish lifted his hand out towards the lady, asking her to pay for being in his forest. The lady giggled as an item phased into her palm. "Oh, this isn't your forest, and it's neither mine." Horkish yelled, "I knew it!" as she continued, "I'm simply a watcher of this forest, listening to the orders of the fog and the mists and the streams. Though I will admit, it's fun to see individuals wander about lost like a child without their mother." Elsie'd asked how they could leave, and she responded with a turn. "Simply keep walking, and you might eventually find a village nearby. The waters of this place are sure to make a decision about your lives, though seems like the winds have arrived too. Your chances look good." Indeed, a strong breeze passed by as she gave a mischievous smile before walking away into the fog. The sounds of a percussion and the splashing of water. A large, slim creature followed after her. Laughter heard, but no one really saw what it was. Still, instantly the group went after her, with one lagging behind, nearly getting lost again. Those in front nearly caught up with the lady, but 3 snakes attacked with advantage. A battle encounter ensues with 2 poisonous small snakes, one bluish and one more yellow, and one black, green-sheened, medium poisonous snake, who went back to attacking a larger green snake who was beaten and tired. Nature ain't nice, huh? But sometimes, if the player got too close to the large green snake, it'd attack in self-defense. But it did not actively pursue them, so the players focused on the 3 poisonous ankle biters. Elsied with his warhammer, Xerxes with his baritone. Yes, he used it like a giant hammer. I don't know what it's made out of, but God must have done something to make it sturdy. Fish with his magic, Horkish with his daggers and specks of ice, and Fiji, eventually, with her mace. With each snake bite, the players were forced to make a constitution saving throw, or else get additional poison damage or a poison status if they rolled very low. See, D&D uses dice in character creation and action, so if dice ain't on your side, GG. A round or so passes, a smaller snake dies, but 2 other large poisonous snakes arrive to attack, black with a blue and yellow sheen respectively. Now the chances of getting poison damage increases again. And it happens. Xerxes goes down from poison damage, failing his constitution save and hitting 0 HP. Fiji almost went down, but hung on by a thread and was able to use her ability to heal some of her HP back up when it was her turn. The other smaller snake goes down, but the new larger snakes were still vicious. Eventually the yellow sheen one goes down, too aggressive in battle, as Xerxes makes his first death saving throw, which he succeeds. The blue sheen one goes down from a critical hit by Fiji, as Elsied heals Xerxes awake. Then the black medium snake finally goes down by Fish, after being difficult to hit. The remaining green injured large snake then looks at the crew before slithering away, and the party lets it. With a quick round of perception, Horkish is the only one to notice nearby 2 emaciated oxen, one black and one white, barely hearing the squeaks of a cart. He looks back at his newfound companions. "Oh, you guys have no idea how close death was to us." Explaining the oxen and cart were a sign that the death deity was nearby to bring omens of death and reap souls. With that chilling fact, the party agreed to stay together and wandered the forest, hoping to find a way out. Not long after, a tiny, pure black snake rustles through the bushes as the fog lightens up ever so slightly. It showed no signs of aggression before flicking its tail as if to motion them to follow, and they did, until they finally were brought to a clearing, hearing children playing as the fog finally dissipated. A village in sight. Seeing themselves safe, Xerxes and Horkish began to argue on who would keep the friendly snake as a pet. End scene. As you can see, since most of my friends were noobs, I wanted to start them off at level 2 in order to ease my friends into the story. This was sort of an unofficial session 0 where they got to test out their starting features and key mechanics of D&D without any major stakes. You know, they got to use skill checks, saving throws, attack and damage, as well as sort of set the tone and rules of the table. For those who have never played D&D, Session 0 is very important because of all the things that I just mentioned. I'm also glad that I started at level 2 instead of 3 or 1, and I'll explain level 3 in the next video, but as for level 1, I'm glad I didn't start there because I'd be too scared of accidentally killing everybody. Plus, there's just so few fun features at level 1 for many class types. Anyway, that's everything for the basic introduction. I have so many fond feelings and memories for that first game day, the start of it all. I might have missed a few things here or there, but I got the key details. Anyway, I hope I did a good job retelling the story and made it interesting for you guys, because, I wanted to introduce the base of our main characters and for you guys to enjoy it. So please comment your thoughts, your experience, all that sort of stuff. Also, if you've played D&D in the past, comment some of your session stories that you have that, my story reminded you of. Also, this will be a series, so I pray that you look forward to the next episode with more solid information about our players, as well as more storyline actually officially starting. I'll also be posting Dream SMP characters turned into D&D character sheets because I love character creation, so look forward to that. If you can, subscribe so you can get notified for these projects because I would love to see you guys there. Anyway, stay safe, annyeong, adios, bye!